The next thing I want to talk about is if your child is substituting sounds for one another. So I said earlier, my son used to substitute used to substitute for the TH, the R, and the L. He would make the W sound, plus also the W sound was also for the W. So all of those he had collapsed into one category, and all of those in his brain he perceived as W. So what I had to do was train his brain to process those sounds individually, clearly, and distinctly. And I'm just going to, for the sake of ease today, use 2 different sounds instead of using all 4 of those sounds. So if, for instance, your child was struggling with making the W for the L sound, we would start out, we want to make sure that your child can discriminate between those sounds. So if their brain isn't processing the difference between a W and a L, then they don't know which one to say when. So to their brain, lion actually sounds almost the same as YN. So they don't process the difference between those 2 words. So we have to teach their brain to attend to those differences. So we want to just start with simple discrimination activities and teach your child to process the difference. So I start with, when I'm doing this type of thing, I'm going to say W. Point to the picture that's W. And then they point to the letter that represents the W sound. And again, if they aren't getting these correct, if their brain isn't processing the difference through the sounds, you can draw their attention to your mouth. So when you say W, W, show your child and let them look at your mouth. Also let them produce that sound, hold up a mirror, see if they can make their lips and their mouth look like you, and then have them do the same for the sound. Again, showing them their productions, talking to them about what they should do with their tongue when they make the L sound. So when you make the L sound, you smile a little bit and you lift the tip of your tongue up right behind your teeth. Just giving your child those words and that explicit teaching of where their tongue should go and what their mouth should be doing can add another component that can help them start to process those sounds as distinct sounds. So again, we'll have these 2 letters out in front of them, and I might say and then my child would point to for L. If they don't get it right, again, draw their attention to your mouth and have them watch you as you do that. Other activities that you might do for discrimination would be, this is just a sheet from speakingofspeech.com, and it's R and W contrast. So this would be if you're working on processing the difference between the R sound and the W sound. And these are minimal pairs. So minimal pairs are words that differ only by the target sound. So if you're trying to work on your child producing an R sound and they make a W, then you try to find words that differ only by that R and W. So for instance, this word is rake and this word is wake. So if they're processing those as different sounds, rake, wake, you could do something like, okay, I'm going to say the word. Now you tell me which one I'm saying, wake, and have them point to wake. If they get that incorrect, again, you can draw their attention to your mouth and show them what you're doing or hold out the beginning sound to help them process that difference. Again, we're constantly adding extra components, extra senses to this. So if their ears and their auditory section of their brain isn't processing the sounds, they can use those other components like the visual components or the tactile components or the feeling so that they know what they're doing and they can tell you whether they're making an R or a W sound. So next one down, white. They have to point to the picture of white instead of right and tell me that that one started with a W. So they have to be able to discriminate just between those 2 sounds because they only differ, the 2 words only differ by the sound that they're not processing. So those are discrimination activities you can also do with your child. Something like, again, if they're struggling with the processing the difference between an R and a W, you can say an R sound. If you say an R sound and they think it's a clear, distinct R sound, then they can point at your happy face. If you say an R sound that is not distinct or that's unclear or that is substituted, then they would point at this negative face or the face that is just showing the straight line across as opposed to being the happy face. So if I say W and I'm supposed to be saying then they would point to this face. And if I am saying and it's supposed to be, then they would point to the happy face. Again, you can do that with words. So if I'm working on R and W, I might say whack. And I said w instead of so they'd point to this face. If I said rack, they would point to the happy face. If I said ripe, they would point to happy. If I said wipe, they would point to this face. So again, we're talking about being able to process and understand the differences between the sound that they are supposed to be making, the target sound, and the sound that they're substituting instead. So after we've moved past the discrimination, we want to start learning how to produce those sounds and moving our mouth and thinking about those sounds and making those sounds clearly. Generally, we just start in isolation. So telling your child what sound, how you make each sound and how you would produce that sound. So again, for the L sound, we generally smile a little bit and then we take the tip of our tongue and put it up right behind our teeth. Ugh. And again, getting a mirror out and helping your child look at your mouth and realize that what your tongue is doing and what your lips are doing, and helping them to not only learn how to process and think about the difference in what they're hearing, but also feel the difference and see the difference in what they're producing. After we have words that we've learned after we've learned the sounds and we can discriminate those sounds and we start producing those sounds in isolation, then we want to add those sounds to syllables, just very simple syllables, and we want to start with the L or the target sound at the beginning. In general, it's a lot easier for children to learn the target sound at the beginning of words, followed by words where the target sound is at the end, and then where the target sound is in the middle would be the most difficult usually. So we'll start with these simple syllables. We'll have our target sound, so in this instance the L, lay, lee, lie, low, loo. And we just practice saying those target sounds in front of the different vowel sounds. We can work then to putting those target sound at the end of the syllables, and then from there we'll move on to real words or words that are common in your child's environment. So as you're thinking about the target sound and which sound you want to work on with your child, you want to pick a specific target sound, one sound at a time, and you want to make a list of words that your child might frequently say with that sound contained in that word. And list at least 50 of those, but you want to come up with some where the target sound is at the beginning of the word, some where the target sound is at the end of the word, and some where the target sound is in the middle of the word. You want to choose things like if their name has their target sound, or your last name, or friends or family, places where they go, the name of their school, teachers' names, their favorite pet, favorite movie characters, anything that they talk about or use frequently in their environment that has that specific sound. You want to write that down on a list so that you can target those specific functional words with your child. So let's say that your child is working on your L, on the L sound, and their name is Lynn. So we would want to work on the word Lynn first because we want to be able to pronounce our own name correctly. So what we do is from our list, we take 5 words, and we're going to start again with the words that start with the L or that begin with the target sound. So we have Lynn, and that's one of our 5 words that we would target for the week. Let's say we also have love, like, lion, and look. Those are going to be our 5 words that we target, again, every day of the week for just 5 minutes each day to practice those words. And because we practice them every day and we're constantly talking about them, your child's going to trigger or remember that those words are words we are working on and that we need to work on practicing and saying our correct L sound. So they'll start to carry over that work of thinking about their L and how to make it and carry it over into their regular conversation because they're so used to saying these words and practicing these words. If by the end of the week your child is doing really well at just saying the word, Lynn, then you can have them put that word into a sentence. So for instance, my name is Lynn, and have them repeat that sentence after you. Getting a little bit more complex as we go on. If your child is doing well, then you can move on and become more complex. Again, you'll target these words every day of the week for 1 week, and then From there, if they are still struggling with any of these words to produce them just at the word level, you'll take that word out. So let's say they struggled with the word like, and you'll keep that for next week. And then you'll find 4 new words that you're going to put with the word like to continue practicing their speech. Again, you'll want to do, generally the words that start with L first are the easiest, so you would do those words first. And so you'll have your 5 words for the next week, and every day, just like you did with these words, you're going to practice those 5 words. As you see your child or hear your child say those words in conversation, stop them if they don't recognize the word on their own and say, oh, that's one of your words. Did you make a good L sound, or did you make a clear L sound? Let me hear you say that word. If they are struggling and you notice it, you can say something like, you said lion. I want to hear you say lion, lion, and have them repeat after you. So you want to notice and you want to bring their attention to the fact if they're substituting a different sound for the target sound, you want to draw their attention to that and help them to recognize that error and then make that sound correctly. So as you're moving through the list, 5 new words every week, practicing those words every day for about 5 minutes. You want to continually remind your child to use those words correctly, stop them when they use those words, and ask them to judge whether they use them correctly or incorrectly. Hold up cues, give them strategies, show them a mirror, let them make that word with the mirror in front of them so they can see if they're making the correct movements, and constantly reinforce their attempts at making those correct sounds. You're going to move through that list and continually go over and practice your old words as well as your new words. So again, just keep them all on a book ring and keep practicing those over and over until your child starts to make those sounds correctly. And eventually, as we work on that, your child's brain will start to bring all of the L sounds and start to separate the W and the L as 2 distinct categories, and then start to use clear speech so that they're using the correct sounds for both the L words and for the W words. Another thing I want to talk about with you is working on phonological awareness, or your ability to think about and manipulate the sounds, is also going to help your child improve his or her speech. So again, the part of the brain, the sounds, the phonological awareness, the parts that deal with the sound, the more you work on your child's ability to process and think about sounds within words individually, the more their speech will improve. So on top of, let's say again, your child's difficulty is with the L, then I would choose phonological awareness activities that have the word L, or sorry, the sound L in them. So I did a video last week about phonemic awareness, and you would use those exact same strategies and those same techniques, except you would try to find consonant, vowel, consonant words that have the L sound in them. So for instance, if we had the word lap, we would work on saying the sounds in the word lap, but also making sure that as we say the sounds in lap, we are correctly making that L sound. So we're going to say a, p, lap. And again, we don't have to connect letters to these sounds right now to do the phonemic and phonological awareness activities, but you do have to have manipulatives when you first start. But again, if your child's struggling with the L sound, you'll want to use words that contain that sound so that you can use those blending and segmenting activities to help encourage your child to process that sound distinctly from the sound that they're using in error. So any phonological awareness activities you can use are going to help develop this part of your child's brain, going to help improve the speech, and it will help even more if you specifically choose words that have your child's target sound contained within them, so that you're blending and segmenting those sounds within those words. Just make sure that if your child is saying it incorrectly, so if they say w, ap, wap, that you correct them and help them to see the difference and process that difference in the word or in the sound, so that they're learning from that activity as opposed to just reinforcing the incorrect production. All right, so those are some activities that you can use to help your child improve his or her speech skills. I'm going to put a link on the end of this video that links you to, I think it's the University of Iowa, but at that site there is a specific chart and an explanation for how to make each individual sound within the English language and how you could explain that to your child, the place, the voice, and the manner, the way the sound is produced, where it's produced in your mouth. So if you're struggling to feel and think about how to describe those sounds to your child and how to make those individual sounds, then you can look at that link and it will give you some direct instruction on how to explain that and help your child be able to process and feel and really think about those sounds as opposed to just trying to imitate them right after you. So I will include that link on my Facebook page and on my website so that you can check those out. And also my videos for phonological awareness are on my YouTube channel, which is accessible through my website. So if you get on my website at jenniferleeds.com, you can find my YouTube videos and watch videos about phonological awareness, which will again help improve your child's speech skills. So if you have any questions, you can always contact me via Facebook, or you can get on my website and contact me there, or you can try to send me an email at jmoellerslp@yahoo.com. I hope you've learned some helpful strategies today. And again, contact me with questions and I'm happy to assist you in any way I can. Thanks.